Hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well. This is Rudy. Hey, I'm going to talk about a few different things that are on my mind tonight and just share some thoughts on a variety of different topics. One of them is, I guess the market went down 500 points yesterday and over 630 today, and gold is hitting all-time highs. Silver's close to $40 a share, $40 an ounce. And, I hope all of you guys have gotten out of the stock market. I've gotten out a while back. And, in a free market system, there might be reasons for investing in companies in a honest money system. But we're so corrupt with inside trading and just moochers, looters, bootlickers, and tyrants and outright corruption. There's no way in hell that I would put any of the resources I got in the stock market. But I can't stand to look at Obama. I mean, his face, it causes such consternation and disgust in my physical body that I can't stand to look at it. But I saw him give two sentences of his speech today. One of them, I guess he was saying the credit rating, S&P, they downgraded it, and they didn't downgrade it because they didn't have faith in the American government to pay, but they were blaming the fact that it took them a month of squabbling or something. So the system needs to be made faster. So I gathered that he was going to try to improve the system by the super Congress or whatever, and that we need a different system. I guess the American system of government is no longer good enough for Obama or the credit rating system. So it doesn't surprise me they would blame it on that. The second thing he said before I just absolutely had to turn it off was he said Warren Buffett, who knows a thing or two about good investments. And I'm no fan of Warren Buffett. I guess you guys already know I'm not a fan of many people. This book right here, Free Lunch. You guys see that? Free Lunch. It's by a guy by the name of David Johnston. It talks in some detail about how Warren Buffett has manipulated the system to benefit himself and his companies. And if you've ever read the novel Atlas Shrugged, you know that Dagny Taggart's brother couldn't accomplish anything of any real value, but he could send people to Washington to manipulate the rules such that it tore down his competition and benefited his own company. And that's what I think of when I think of Warren Buffett. When I think of Warren Buffett, I think of Dagny Taggart's brother in the novel Atlas Shrugged. There's a few books here I want to go through, and I'll just mention a few things, and then I'll close up. But this book right here, Dennis Prager. I know he's a Jew, but he's got some pretty good thoughts. It says, "Think a Second Time," Dennis Prager. I just want to read you guys one of the paragraphs at the very beginning of his book. It says, Chapter 1, Why the Belief That People Are Basically Good is Wrong and Dangerous. See, most people believe other people are just generally good, and we do have an installed moral compass in us. But I believe that, the Bible tells us that man's heart is wicked, and I do believe that. The belief that people are basically good is one of the most widely held beliefs in contemporary society, yet it is both untrue and destructive. Why? It isn't true. The most frequent objection I encounter when I argue that human nature is basically good is, aren't babies born good? The answer is no. Babies are born innocent, and they are certainly not born evil, but they aren't born good either. In fact, babies are the quintessence of selfishness. I want mommy, I want milk, I want attention, I want to be played with, I want. And if you don't do everything I want, I will ruin your life. To be sure, this is normal behavior for a baby, but on what grounds can it be characterized as morally good? As for older children having been a camp counselor and a camp director for 10 years, I know that few things come more naturally to many children than meanness, petty cruelty, bullying, and the lack of empathy for less fortunate peers. So, Dennis Prager, I've seen him debate some of these popular atheists today. One of them is Sam Harrison or Sam, I can't think of his name, but people like Richard Dawkins, and there's a few others as well. But I do admire Dennis Prager. I admire his thought processes, even though that he's not a Christian. I do learn from him, and I learn from his book. This book right here is called Islam and Terrorism by Mark Gabriel. I recommend it as well. Islam and Terrorism by Mark Gabriel. I wanted you guys to read a quote from the Quran that it mentions. This is Surah 5:51, and this is a really good resource piece that talks about the belief system of the Quran. There's another book that I've got, and I don't have it in front of me. Maybe I'll do it in my next video. It says what every American should know about the Quran. You can look at that at Amazon.com and go to books and type in what every American should know about the Quran. This one is Islam and Terrorism. But this is telling the Muslim people, take not the Jews and Christians as alua, which that means friends, protectors, or helpers. So let's read that again. Take not the Jews and the Christians as friends, protectors, and helpers, but they are but alua of each other. And if any amongst you takes them as alua, then surely he is one of them. So, that pretty much sums up what the Muslims think about the Jews and the Christians, right? Do not take them as your friends, protectors, or helpers. Otherwise, you'll be one of them. And that was in Surah 5:51. You can go look it up in the Quran. I want to read another verse in the Quran. This is one that I haven't burned yet. The Meaning of the Holy Quran by Yusuf Ali. This is Surah 98:6. In Surah 98:6, those who reject the truth of this book, which means the Quran, those who reject the Quran among the people of the book, and it capitalizes book. Anytime they talk about the book, they're talking about the Bible. Those who reject the Quran among the people of the Bible and among the polytheists, the people who believe in multiple gods. See, the Islamic people believe that we believe are polytheists because we believe in the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that some of the Muslims think of us as polytheists. But if they don't think of us as polytheists, they think of us as people of the book, people of the Bible, right? Among the people of the book and among the polytheists will be in hellfire. So they think we're going to hell just like we think they're going to hell. To dwell therein, they are the worst of creatures. So their Quran, the Muslim Quran, teaches that people of the book, the Bible, are the worst of creatures. Okay? That's Surah 98:6. So if you like the Bible and you believe in the Bible, you are the worst of creatures according to the unholy Quran. Okay, this is nestlearning.com. I'm not a salesman for these guys, but I do love watching cartoons and animations and stuff like that. And this is the Miracles of Jesus. But on eBay, you can get these things for about $12. I think they got a total of 60 of them. And there's 60 different Bible stories. And when I watch this, and then I go read the Bible, I get more out of the Bible because it puts things in context. So if you have children, you can use them as Christmas presents or birthday presents and things like that. Okay, here's another book I want to talk about. This one is Zappos, Delivering Happiness. It's written by a guy by the name of Tony Hsieh. I've read the whole thing, and I had to read it because of, I just had to read it. So anyway, there's two things that I thought of while going through this book. One of them is Tony Hsieh is either Taiwanese or Chinese, and he comes from a family, and I have some Chinese friends, and I got to say, they put a tremendous amount of value on educating their children. Almost all of them play musical instruments. They're very, very intelligent, and their parents train them. They put a tremendous amount of value on education and developing their mental faculty. So I admire that in the Chinese. But when I read this book, Tony Hsieh has made millions, if not billions, right? He started a company called Link Exchange. He now runs a company called Zappos, which was acquired by Amazon, and he has used his intellectual capacity to make millions and millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, in the stock market in the American society that we once had that's fallen apart right now. And so since he's made so much money, people listen to him as if he is worthy to be listened to. And he wrote this book, and the shocking thing to me as I read through it, he never gives any credit to the American system of government and the free market system that allowed him to accomplish what he accomplished. He could never have accomplished what he did in China or Canada or South Korea, or I don't even think he could have done what he did in Europe, right? But he did this in America, and not once did he give any credit to the American free enterprise system that we once had that allowed him to accomplish so much. So I think he's taken for granted the framework that allowed him to make his billions, and he didn't give it any credit whatsoever. And he talks about his company, and he wants to create a company culture. And it's okay for a company to have core values. I don't have a problem with that. But he sends new hires through a hiring process, and they have to go through two sets of interviews. One set of interview, they have to be interviewed to make sure that they have the talents necessary to do the job. And then he sends the hiring potential candidates through a second set of interviews. And they have to meet what's called the company culture requirements. And we're not supposed to discriminate on people for religion, race, or sexual orientation, but he's made this second set of interviews where he can discriminate on company culture. And that's, to me, the Fortune 100 companies are eating this book up. And so if you are a Christian, or if you are somebody who is not in the mainstream, if you happen to value truth and justice, accountability, you may not fit within the company culture. And even though you have all of the requirements to meet the job, per this book, if you don't also meet the requirements that's required for the company culture, they don't have to hire you. And I felt that was an appalling part of the book. There are some good things in the book, but I felt that Tony Hsieh is just a young man who has, there's a word I'm looking for, he's exploited the American system and became very wealthy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with that. But he hasn't given credit to the system that allowed him to become wealthy. And then he kind of likes to build his own company with people that are aligned with his way of thinking, aligned with his culture, so to speak. And so when he hires people that match with his culture. And you can go look him up. His name is Tony Hsieh, Hsieh. He runs Zappos.com. But this is just another way to discriminate against people who don't share a company's values. And so it's another way to discriminate, in my opinion. The other thing I'll mention is, I think Pastor Manning's website has been down, and I haven't been able to listen to the Manning Report, and I don't know, I think that's not coincidental, with all this stuff going on. I would have loved to hear what he's got to say, but his website's been down for almost 2 or 3 or 4 days. Orly Tates, they stonewalled Orly Tates. If you go to orlytatesesq.com, they stonewalled her, and she was not able to get in to see the birth certificate, and the judge that gave the piece of paper that allowed Orly Tates to go see the birth certificate has called for another hearing. I think that's in September the 16th. I'm sure if you go to orlytates.esq.com, you can get the latest. But, the thing is, Barack Obama already made the birth certificate public. It's not like it's private anymore. He made it public. And so the judge said that Orly Tates could go in and examine it, but they stonewalled her in Hawaii, even though she flew all the way over there. Because, the most important issue we got, even with all this markets crashing and, this whole SEAL Team 6, I pray for the comfort of the men who died, but they were set up. They were set up because I believe that Barack Obama probably killed his grandmother. He probably killed the person who broke into the passport office. And he probably killed SEAL Team 6. And I don't think he killed Osama bin Laden. The whole thing's a lie. We live in Sodom and Gomorrah. We live in a Satan-controlled world. Let's just keep faith in the Lord. God bless everyone.